Hello everybody, this is Sherry at djsundry.blogspot.com, and guess what? It's time for another challenge over at 3 Girl Jam. We are also being co-sponsored today by Scraptastical Creations, who has lots of digi files, and they have SVG cuts and Acrobat cuts and JPEG cuts, so that you can make lots of cute little things. Now, I don't have a cutter that will cut those the specialized files. I just have my Cricut. So what I did is I chose to use the Acrobat files. But the beauty of their product is when you download a file, you get them in any format that they offer them in. And so whether it's SVG or JPEG or Acrobat, or there's several of them, and you can, if you purchase it, then you get all of them, so you can use whichever way you want. So the one that I chose was the mini photo album. Now, I was having some printer issues. My preference would have been to cut this on cardstock. I mean, just print it directly on cardstock. Although the downside to that is then I would have the line, so maybe it was better that I didn't. But because my printer wouldn't accept my cardstock, I just cut them out on just a regular old piece of typing paper, just thin and flimsy, and then I put it on a piece of orange cardstock, and I traced around it, and then I cut it. So this is the file I used, and this is again the mini album. Now, the challenge today is to make a party decoration or a favor or something to do with parties, and of course we're going to use a ribbon. Now, you don't have to use a file from Scraptastical Creations if you don't have one. I just chose to use it. But I needed to figure out how I was going to turn this mini album, and it's just a mini tag album, I believe is actually what it's called. And I needed to figure out how I was going to turn this into a party decoration. And so one night I was tired and not really feeling up to doing much, so I decided to pull out my Cricut magazines. And in the October 2012 issue, they had a pumpkin. And I thought that would make a perfect base for the concept I had. And there's a couple things you could do with it. You could tweak it and play with the sizing and do it the size that you wanted to make it individual place settings and use it as a place card. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. So in the original Cricut, they took pattern paper and they used Create a Critter, and they cut out 12 pumpkins from Create a Critter. Now, that's a shift shadow feature on Create a Critter. I'm not sure which button it shares, but it is a shift button, and they use the shadow feature to get this pumpkin. And they cut out 12 of them, just like I have done here. They cut them out about, I believe it was 5.5, I can't remember. But what I discovered when I did that is 5.5 on a 12 by 12 sheet of paper, the way it cuts, even using Paper Saver, you only get 1 pumpkin per page. And I just wasn't willing to waste that much paper, even though I could use, obviously it only takes 1 small corner. It was too big to get the more than 1 on the page. So I think maybe if you used a Cricut Craft Room instead, you could go through and cut off the stem, because I went through and cut them all off anyway. I just didn't have time to mess with the Cricut Craft Room. But you could cut off the stem and maybe get 2 on a page. So what I did instead is I just played with my sizes until I found a size where I could get 4 on a page. So I would only need 3 pages of cardstock, and I used just solid orange cardstock because I was going for something a little bit different than the pattern paper. I wanted texture. The ribbon that I've made will add beautiful texture, but I wanted more texture. So what I did instead is I took Cuttlebug plates and I embossed each different pumpkin with a different Cuttlebug plate. So I have all sorts. Now this is a zebra one, and it was pretty rough on that cardstock, but since it turned out okay because it's backed by the other one, so it shouldn't fall apart. But I used just all sorts of them. Now if I wanted to, I could go back in, or I should have done it before I put it together, and ink and all that texture would stand out. But I think for me, for this project, I'm just going to leave it just like that. And as I mentioned, I cut off the stems, and then you just score them down the middle, and then you adhere them back to back, all 12 pumpkins, until you get this dimensional pumpkin. So then I thought, okay, now what am I going to do with the stem to make it hold my mini? And so I thought about it, and I thought about it. In the original one, they used just a dowel rod, and it was very pretty, and it looked very much like a pumpkin stem. But I thought, I needed something to hold my mini. So I went back through my stash, and I found these big paper clips that I have from Life's Little Occasions. And I took one of them, and then I have some raffia that I had picked up at Joann's a long time ago. And I just wrapped the raffia around the paper clip. I wrapped it, first of all, around the whole paper clip, just as you would a normal paper clip. And then I went back, and each individual section of the 2 sections, I wrapped the whole thing. And that was actually kind of my mother-in-law's idea. She was watching me and thought that's what I was doing. And she said, oh, I thought you were going to do that and wrap it like this. And I didn't even think about that. And so I went back, and then I wrapped it again, each individual piece. So now my mini will actually fit right down in there. So see how easy it would be to make this really small and it be your table setting, and you could your nameplate and your table setting for Thanksgiving. You could put, you know, Sherry across the top of it and make it glittery and not use these. So and then I wanted to get my ribbon, and I decided my original plan was just to use my ribbon on the mini part, but then I thought, ooh, wouldn't the ribbon make a pretty vine? So I took my 3 Girl Jam ribbon. And if you've ever bought a crinkle ribbon, you know that crinkle ribbon is not curly ribbon. It's crinkle ribbon. So I thought, well, how am I going to make it curly to make it look like pumpkin vines? And so I took it, and I took my water that actually had some Perfect Pearls in it, and I sprayed several pieces of ribbon right here on my craft mat. I sprayed them down really well. And then I took ink pens, and I took a little glue dot, and put it at the top of the ink pen, and I twirled my ribbon around it, and then I put another one on the bottom, and then I let it dry. Now this one actually has been on, these 2 had been on the pen longer than the others, because I was originally going to put 5, and then I changed and put 3. And as you can see, as time goes on, it starts to lose its shape a little bit, although this was more just the way I took it off, I think. But I could do a few things, and I still may. I may just leave it, but you could also, maybe instead of using water, maybe you could thin out some glue and use actual like watery glue, and then as it dried it would be stiff. Now these 2 actually feel pretty stiff. Maybe you could use some spray adhesive. Just something to make it so it doesn't all ravel out if you really want to keep this curly shape. But there's a lot you could, I mean, that's just a thought that you can do with it. So then I glued that to the bottom where you can't see of my paper clip, and then I put the paper clip, I put more glue on the paper clip, and actually on the inside I used glossy accents, and I put that stem down in there. So now we are ready to finish our mini. So like I said, I printed it on the white, and then I traced it around the orange. Now I know that's a lot of orange, but this is just the base, and this is just kind of the starting point for what we're going to do to decorate it. So I just wanted to show you this part of the project, and when I come back I'll tell you what I did to finish off the mini. Okay, so I'm back, and I have some more fun supplies to show you. Just going to go through them quickly. I ended up grabbing out my Seedless Preserves and Ripe Persimmon Distress Inks. Remember, these were the seasonal fall ones last year. Then from Tim Kofi and Kay and Company, I pulled out this fall die cut pack. Some of them have glitters and sparkles, and some of them are just plain. Pulled that out, and I went through my stash of letters and numbers, and I needed a lot of numbers. So I pulled out these Provocraft Alphabetties, and I actually had quite a few different colors, and you'll see them throughout the project. Then I pulled out my Autumn Melody matte stack from Die Cuts with a View, which was this year's matte stack, and I absolutely love this matte stack. I've got all sorts of papers in it. Now, one of the sheets that I found in that stack, I marked it here, was a die cut sheet, and I used some of the die cuts from this sheet. I used both the Give Thanks and the Autumn Splendor, and then some of the smaller ones as well. And then I used several different papers from this stack, which you will see. Now what I did with it is I took, remember my pattern here, I took one and just cut it off, and then I just freehand cut about a 1/16, between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch off, and use that as my pattern, and you'll see how I made that work on my paper. I traced it. Now some of these papers, it doesn't matter which way you put it in this mat stack. Now you can turn it this way or this way, but others like these two, which I used, have either letters, or this one had music notes, this one had acorns that went up and down. So the different ones I had to cut in different ways. If it didn't matter, I cut it this way because the tag fit just fine and I would save paper. But if the pattern had to go in its opposite way, I had to be careful. So pay attention when you're doing pattern paper, because I can't tell you how many times I have cut the wrong direction. So that is that. And then the last paper that I used was this My Family paper stack. And the reason I use this is I had some scraps in my scrap stash that had some graph type paper on it, and I used that up, but I needed more, and so I ended up going back into the stack and getting another piece that wasn't a scrap. But I chose one like this one that's very much like a 12 by 12 layout, because I don't do a lot of actual 12 by 12 layouts right now, and this isn't a paper that I would necessarily use personally for my scrapbook. So I thought, well, then I'll use the graph, because I love the graph paper and I wanted to use that. So then I also pulled out another 3 Girl Jam ribbon color. This is the Halloween Harvest from the new Seasons pack. And it comes with the Halloween Harvest, and it comes with some red, white, and green one for Christmas, and then the Summer Sprinkles, which is like a soft yellow with pink in it. So I pulled this Halloween Harvest out because it had nice fall colors that I wanted to use in my stash. And so this is the final little book. So this was my thinking. Yes, you could use this as a mini album and put small pictures. You would have to really crop your pictures down or get them cut, almost in wallet size. But I wanted to do something a little bit different to go along with my party favor idea. And what I wanted to do is I wanted this to be a thankful, kind of like a thankful calendar, I guess you would say. And so what I did is on the front, I took, remember I told you about that die cut, and you see here I just fancy cut or fussy cut around it, and then these are some of the die cut pieces with the glitter on it from the Tim Colfe pack. And then I took a piece of yellow scrap, and I have some stamps, and I believe I've already put them away, but they are from Megan Elizabeth over at Above Ruby Studio, and I just took my black archival ink, and they're individual letter stickers, and I put Parish Family. And now I went through first and cut out all the inside tags, and I taped all of those down except for the front and the back cover. And before I taped them down, I used my glossy accents and added the ribbon. Again, how do I know to make sure you do this correctly? Because I messed it up. I only put it on one side thinking, well, I'll put it on the side that it opens. I didn't think about the fact that this is more of an accordion. So I had to carefully raise up the paper on the opposite side and put some more down. So I've actually got 4 pieces of ribbon here, but you could have one long piece on the front and one long piece on the back, or if you really wanted to, you could just have one long piece on the back and bring it around and tie it like that, and use a different, longer ribbon and a different die cut there. So that's the front cover. And then on the inside is where you'll see I used another one of those die cuts, and then I said, what are you thankful for this year? This is a special place to record your memories. And then this has 2012, and you can barely see it in this camera light, and then a piece of the graph paper, and you can write on that, and then through each one, 2013, 2014, flip around 2015, 16, and 17. And then we're back to the front cover. So that is the little book that goes on top, and that will be a great thing to have on your table at Thanksgiving time, and you can share those memories, and you can look back at things that you were thankful for in past years, and then add the new thankful memories on the new year. And so I thought that would really be fun. Now you could, if you were having a big Thanksgiving party, you could do individual ones. I know I've mentioned many times before, and if you follow my blog for a while, you know that I do place setting cards when I host Christmas or Thanksgiving. And so if you had some time, you could do these for each place setting if you had room on your table, and then save them, and then each year had, instead of putting like the family name, you could put each individual's name, and then through the years you would have something to look for. Or you could do like what I'm doing with this particular one, and as you see, I'm going to put this right in top here, and there we have our pumpkin that will hold it on top. And then each year the family will be able to go back and look and see what they were thankful for in the previous years and add to their new year. So thanks for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed this project. I enjoyed making it. It took a little bit of time, but it was well worth it. And it's one of those that you can have for a very long time. So thanks for stopping by today, and remember to take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day.